About 13 years ago, I had an experience that completely changed the trajectory of my life, and it could not have been more unexpected or powerful. And that is what I want to talk about today. So, when I was in college, I was in a relationship with a girl I thought I was going to end up marrying, having kids with, and live a life that others would only dream of. But near junior year, I that relationship ended, and the night that happened, I wasn't even sad or angry. I just became extremely numb. But it didn't take very long for this very intense and deep depression to wash over me, and that is what I lived in for a long time after that. So I became the most depressed I have ever been. I was constantly on some sort of substance because I could not handle being sober. I was drinking, I was smoking cannabis, and I was smoking cigarettes as well. Just like constantly had something going on, and I was not able to leave my house unless I was partaking in more of those things, whether that was a bar or a party or just going out and buying these things to bring home and keep doing. So it was a very, very dark time in my life. And while I was, on all these substances, I was also watching TV, just like constantly distracting myself. And at the time, I was basically only watching documentaries, and I got really obsessed with this one called Through the Wormhole. And it's basically a documentary series. I can't remember what channel it was on, but Morgan Freeman narrates it, and every episode is an existential question that is posed, and then they bring in scientists from different methodologies to answer it from their point of view. And, some of the questions that they ask is there life after death? What is God, or does God exist? And during these types of questions being answered by all these scientists and academics, I noticed that a lot of them were referencing God to some degree, and I was completely baffled by this. I, as a short aside, was born in Texas and spent my whole adolescence being told I was going to hell because I was gay and all of this stuff. And so from a very young age, I became a very staunch atheist because it was like a defense mechanism. If you hate me, I hate you. I'm not going to believe in anything you believe in. This doesn't even make sense. This like guy in the sky demanding what you can and can't do. And so that's where I was coming from when I was watching these documentaries. And so the fact that these people who I idolized, academics and intellectuals and scientists talking about this concept of God, I was like, what the fuck is going on right now? But I kept watching, and eventually I started going online and kind of, Googling these different scientists and these different concepts that were talked about, and eventually the algorithm did its thing on YouTube, and I started getting recommended these videos about spirituality and enlightenment and non-duality. And I was watching these videos thinking these people sound absolutely fucking crazy, just unhinged. What are they talking about? But because of the experience I had with the scientists and the fact that regardless of how crazy these people sounded, they all seemed happy and like connected with themselves and connected with the world in that moment, I decided that I would rather be crazy and happy than sane and depressed. And so I continued down the wormhole of all of this information. I kept reading, I kept watching videos, and this was, about ancient like religion and spirituality, all the way up to like new age thinking and just like everything in between. Everything I could get my hands on, I was watching and reading, and to my complete shock, I had these moments where it felt like this veil had been lifted and I was able to see reality as it actually was. Like, my identifications as Lauren and even as a human dissolved away in these moments, and I looked around as if I was just born into reality. Everything was new and fresh and different. It almost felt like I was on like acid or mushrooms, but I was completely sober. No visuals or anything, just the feeling of oneness with everything around you is what I'm referring to here. And so the more those types of experiences happened, the more obsessed I got and just could not get enough of this information. And eventually I started reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and that just really sunk into my psyche. I deeply, deeply experienced and realized that there is nothing else besides here and now. Like, that is the only truth, and everything else outside of that is a projection of the mind. And after I read that book, it was so like shocking to my system as someone who had been stuck in the past, especially with this depression, that I remember being completely present for 3 days. And when I say completely present, I mean any like habitual thoughts that came up of feeling scared or feeling angry or feeling anything at all, like past memories of people, places, things, I saw them as they were coming up as only thoughts. I did not get invested in them. I did not get lost in them. And because of that, because of the sheer amount of presence I had in that moment, they just passed by my mind. And that is when I even started seeing much more clearly that all of these things I had been reading about were true, and that reality is not what I thought it was, and I am not what I thought I was. Like, I am not Lauren. I am not the thoughts I take myself to be. I'm not the emotions I had taken myself to be, or the story of my life that I had taken myself to be. And it just completely blew my mind. And I have never been the same. I'll do another video on the long-term effects of this experience. In this one, I just wanted to talk about the experience itself, like the awakening aspect of this, and how it totally changed the trajectory of my life. I have never been able to stop looking at this information and learning as much as I possibly can. And it has changed my life for the better. it's hard to describe a before and after because it feels like a brand new life, a brand new identity. And that doesn't mean there weren't challenges after that. Like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't just, you know, I woke up and everything was perfect, but it truly changed everything. And this, you know, experience I had with the breakup became one of the events in my life that I am most grateful for, because I never would have been able to accept this information if I wasn't so desperate with depression to be able to choose a new way of thinking. And I firmly believe that. And so I'm so grateful for that situation, even though it was very difficult at the time, that it changed my life for the better. And like I said, I'll go into in another video how this understanding changed and evolved over time and what it did and didn't do for me. But that's what I wanted to speak about here. And yeah, life is wild, and it's only getting weirder the older I get. But that's all for today. I will see you in the next one, and I'm sending you all the good vibes. Bye.